Namaskar. I am Dr. Nalini Avinash Wagmare, working as Associate Professor at Tilak Maharashtra Vidyapeeth. This is my brief information. Today's our topic is related to village administration in ancient period. Since earliest times, the village has been the pivot of administration in India. Its importance was naturally very great in an age when the communications were slow and industrialization unknown. Town played a relatively unimportant part in ancient Indian life. The Vedic hymns frequently pray for the prosperity of the villages, but rarely for that of towns and cities. While describing the prosperity of the kingdom, Jatakas proudly give the large number of prosperous villages included in it, but are altogether obvious to the existing towns and cities that may have flourished in it. So in Vedic period, give a lot of information about village administration. In Vedic age, as shown already, state were small, and these circumstances further enhanced the importance of the village. In later times, even when kingdoms became large, there was no change in the situation because the village was the natural pivot of administration in a rural society. In modern times, governors often convene a conference of collectors to discuss important questions of the administrative policy. In ancient times, kings like Bimbisara used to convene a meeting of village headmen for similar purpose. There is no doubt that villages were the real centers of social life and important units in the country's economy. They sustained the edifice of national culture, prosperity, and administration. In the villages, the village government was usually carried under the supervision and direction of the village headman. He is called Gramini in the Vedic literature and figures frequently in the Jataka stories or Jataka books. The Arthashastra attested to his important part in the administration and inscription of almost all the provinces referred to him during the first millennium of the Christian era. He was called a Gramika or Grameka in northern India, Mununda in the eastern Deccan in the early century of Christian era, and Gramukta or Pattakila in Maharashtra, Patikala in Maharashtra, Gauda in Karnataka, Mahatara of Mahataka in UP between 600 to 1200 AD. So there are various names of the village headmen in northeast, southwest also. Usually, normally speaking, there was only one headman for each village. His post was usually hereditary, government having the right to nominate another person of the family if the succession of the son was not approved. By caste, he was usually a non-Brahmin. He was the leader of the village militia and therefore he may have often belonged to the Kshatriya caste. To protect the village, that's why they appointed the Kshatriya person as the headman of the village. Sometimes Vaishyas too aspired for and obtained the office. Then the headman was the most important officer of the village administration. His order was represented on the Council of Ratnis in the Vedic period, and he appears almost like a village king. The Jatakas explain about it. He figures at the head of the village officers mentioned in the inscription of the first millennium of the Christian era. Gahadala rulers are often seen consulting the village headman when making land grants. Then what was the duty of the village headman? Protect from the robbers. Defense of the village was the most important duty of the village headman. He was the officer in charge of its militia and watch and wall. Life was more unsettled in ancient times, and owing to slow communications, the help of the central government could not be always expected at the nick of the time when there were sudden raids on bandits and robbers. That time, village headman has to protect the village and his people and property of that particular village. The village therefore had to be self-relevant in the defense. We often come across the headman and members of the village militia laying down their lives while defending their own villages. The other duty of the village headman is that the collection of the government revenue was the next important duty of the village headman. He was the custodian of the necessary records and used to carry out the work of collection in consultation with the village council. The headman was also the ex-officio president of this body and used to guide its deliberations and activities in the various spheres of the village government and life. He was usually remunerated by rent-free land and could also get a number of petty dues in kind, which the villagers had to pay to the government. So his main duty is also collect the revenue. Then the village headman, most influential person in the village. The village headman was the most influential person in the village. The Sukraniti's observation that he was like the father and the mother to the villagers is sustainably true. So responsible to the central government, he was generally a man of the people and keen to protect their interest. He was as much indispensable to the people as to the government. So Sikhaniti give a lot of information about that the village man is the responsible and he protects his people as his own son or daughter. Then the village other duties of that the village office had to keep records of rights and transfer of the village lands, as also papers connected with the government dues and their realization. Correspondence had to be carried on with the district authorities and central government, and the decisions and resolutions of the village council had to be duly recorded. So all this work was entrusted to another village officer known as the village accountant. His post also was hereditary in most premises, and he was also paid rent-free land. In Tamil country, however, he was appointed by the village assembly. Then the other village government officers are the village headman and the appointed were the two usual officers of the village government. The Sukraniti refers to four more also. Sabasadi Pati or magistrate, Bagahara, revenue collector, Sulka Graha, toll collector, or Pratitahara or the gatekeeper. They are not, however, referred to in other smrtis or mentioned in inscriptions. Possibly they may have existed in big villages, their functions being performed by the headman and the appointed in smaller ones. Village assembly consists of all the householders. Probably all responsible householders were entitled to become the members of the primary assembly of the village. We have rather evidence on this point about early times and about northern India. There are, however, some indications showing that in Maharashtra, the primary village assembly consists of all the householders. There can be no doubt that such was the case in Karnataka and Tamil country from 600 AD. Numerous inscriptions from Karnataka show that the number of the Mahajanas, the great men of the village, was very large, sometimes 200, sometimes 420, sometimes 500, and sometimes even 1001. There is clear evidence to show that they included all village householders. All villages were invited by the beat of the drum for the meeting of the village assemblies in Tamil country for a meeting. There can be no doubt such was the case in Karnataka Tamil country from 600. Numerous inscriptions Karnataka showed that. I think this is the repeated slide. Okay. The village panchayat. All responsible householders of the village had thus an inherent right to become the members of the primary village assembly. It is interesting to note that the different terms by which they were known as Mahatamas in UP, Mahataras in Maharashtra, Mahajanas in Karnataka, and Perumal in Tamil country all mean the village, same thing, great men of the village. The great men of the village, being so large a body, could obviously have carried on the administration only through an executive committee or council, which was also known as village panchayat in later times. Villages transacted their business themselves. Chetaka's story informs us that neither the village headman nor the village accountant ruled over the village community according to their sweet will. They were both of them guided in the administration by the opinion of the village public, which made itself felt through the village elders who formed a kind of informal council since very early times. We have shown that in the how the Sabha of the Vedic period was both a village council club as well as village council. As its meetings, the members discussed social topics, played indoor games, and also transacted the business of the village government. Jetaka informed us that villages transacted their business themselves. They do not attest to the existence of any regular council or standing committee evolved for this purpose. Initiation was usually left with the headman, but if he acted unreasonably or against the established customs of the locality realm, the village elders could set the matter right by pointing out his mistake to the headman. Then in the Mauryan period, the village system is, in Mauryan period, village used to organize works of public utility and recreation, settle the disputes between their residents, and act as trustees for the property of minors. But they had not yet evolved regular councils, for the Arthashastra refers to village elders acting as trustees and not to any village council or its subcommittee. Panchamandalis in central India. The village council appear to have evolved into regular bodies in the Gupta period, at least in some parts of India. They were known as Panchamandalis in central India, Grama Janapadas in Bihar. A large number of ceilings of the different village councils, Janapadas, have been discovered at Nalanda, which doubtless seal the letters sent by them to the administrators of the Nalanda inner city. It seems almost certain that the village councils in Bihar had developed into formal bodies, meeting regularly to transact administrative business and communicating their decisions to outsiders in formal and sealed communications. Village elders known as Mataras, village elders are Mataras as even in a Pallava and Vakata kingdoms also. But we don't know whether they are developed a regular council. Inscription from Gujarat and Deccan, however, show that uh, Mata Mathara Adikarna Matharas had an expression meaning village elders in the office, or already I have explained about village elders known as Matharas also. Then Chola inscriptions period also give us present a more detailed picture of the constitution and functions of the village assemblies and their executive committees in Tamil country. The primary assembly of the village was known as Ur in the case of ordinary villages and Sabha in the case of Agrahara villages, mostly learned by learned Brahmins. Sometimes both these assemblies are seen the functioning in the same villages. This probably happened when the new Brahmana colony was established. Then, as observed earlier, the primary village of the Tamil country consists of all village residents. Its meeting was usually summoned by the beating of drum. One of the most important work of the assembly was to elect the village executive. It was chosen after obtaining the consent of all the villages assembled at Uru. But how exactly this was done, we do not know. The consent was probably given in the informal manner by the villagers, expressing their approval of the proposals made by the influential members of the village community. The executive body was known as Alunganam, the ruling group, but its numerical strength is not known. Then Agrahara villages. The information which we get about the constitution and functions of the village assemblies and their executive is much more detailed and complete in the case of the Agrahara villages, mostly consisting of Brahmana residents. These constituted the most cultured and educated section of the community, and the residents of some of these Agraharas have immensely helped the historian of ancient India by describing in detail the constitution of the executive of their assemblies. The most detailed picture of the working of the executive committees of village assembly sabhas is to be obtained from the famous inscription at Uttara Mirror, a village still flourishing Chingalpet district with only a single highly changed name, Uttara Malluru. So in this lecture, we have studied the village, then village headman works duties, then village assemblies, then village headman or assembly system in the Chola Charapanda as well as some northern parts of India and their names. So very briefly, we have explained in this lecture. You can, for detail, you can refer these books. Altekar book, State Government in Ancient India, D.N. Zha book, Ancient India, Agrawal book, Basic Ideas of Education, as well as Radhakrishnan K. Joshi book, History of Indian Culture, etc. Even V.D. Mahajan book of Ancient India, you can refer for more detail. Thank you.